The 2022 quarterback class wasn't really supposed to be anything special. It was weak and considered one of the worst quarterback drafts in recent memory. Only one quarterback was actually selected in the first round, and there wasn't a single prospect that didn't have some big question marks surrounding them. Before last season, a 7th round rookie had never started in a single playoff game. 2 did this year, and 7 of the 9 quarterbacks drafted in the 2022 draft started in the regular season. The future is unsure for the group, but at the very least, there were a lot of surprises. The Pittsburgh Steelers didn't go very far in their first crack at finding the heir to Big Ben, selecting Pitt quarterback Kenny Pickett at number 20 overall. The 2021 Heisman finalist appeared in 13 games as a rookie, making his first appearance after Mitch Trubisky was benched at halftime in Week 4 against the Jets. He became the first quarterback in NFL history to rush for 2 touchdowns in a debut, but his 3 second-half interceptions were pretty costly in a 24-20 loss. Pickett's next 4 starts all came against playoff teams: the Bills, Buccaneers, Dolphins, and Eagles. The Steelers only ended up beating the Bucs during that span, with Pickett getting knocked out with a concussion in the 3rd quarter. The bye allowed the Steelers to regroup after an awful 2-6 start, with Pickett throwing 8 picks to just 2 touchdowns. After the bye, the Steelers slowly started to turn their season around, winning 7 of their last 9 games. Pickett was much more careful with the ball, throwing 5 touchdowns to just 2 interceptions down the stretch. His game-winning touchdown passes against the Raiders on Christmas Eve and then against Baltimore on Sunday Night Football gave Steelers fans some hope that they might be an AFC contender sooner rather than later. Next off the board, the Atlanta Falcons picked Desmond Ridder with the 74th pick. Ridder became the 3rd winningest quarterback in the history of college football, with 44 wins in his 4 years at Cincinnati. Ridder led the Bearcats to the college football playoff, the first ever appearance by a group of 5 program. Against Alabama, Ridder completed just 17 of 32 passes for 144 yards in a 27-6 loss. But earlier in his senior year, he led the Bearcats to a 24-13 win at number 8 Notre Dame with 297 yards to the air and 3 total touchdowns to make a national statement. With Marcus Mariota signed to replace franchise legend Matt Ryan, Ridder landed in a spot where he could develop behind a veteran quarterback. He finally got his chance to start in Week 15 against the Saints at the Superdome, which is just about the most hostile place to make an NFL debut. Ridder struggled, throwing for just 97 yards in a 21-18 loss. He did do better in Week 16 at Baltimore, passing for 218 yards in a 17-9 loss. After a 20-19 home win against the Cardinals, Ridder finally threw his first 2 touchdowns in a 30-17 win over the Bucs in Week 18, with Tampa resting their starters. Leading a run-focused offense with Kyle Pitts and Drake London catching passes, there's definitely a path to success for Ridder and the Falcons moving forward. After the Falcons, the Titans were the next team to select a quarterback, taking Atlanta native and Liberty standout Malik Willis. Tennessee traded up 4 picks in the 3rd round to take Willis 86th overall. Willis was projected as the quarterback with the highest ceiling in the class, but most saw him as raw coming out of school. Willis led the nation with 74 touchdowns during his 2 years at Liberty, but in the NFL, Willis has kind of struggled. It didn't help that his first appearance came on Monday Night Football in Buffalo after Ryan Tannehill was benched. Willis played in 7 more games in 2022, starting 3 of those. Derrick Henry definitely carried the load in Willis's first start, a 17-10 win at the Texans, and then the next week at Kansas City, the Titans lost 20-17 in overtime. With Tannehill back from his ankle injury, Willis started just 1 more game, a 19-14 loss to the Texans. He did score his first touchdown though, but it wasn't enough to keep his job. Instead, the Titans signed Josh Dobbs off the Lions practice squad. Dobbs started the last 2 games of the season, with the Titans still fighting for a division title. The jury is still very much out on Willis as an NFL quarterback, but he'll need some legit weapons if he's going to have a chance to prove himself. The Panthers traded up in the 3rd round, swapping picks with the Patriots to take Ole Miss quarterback Matt Corral 94th overall. Unfortunately, Corral suffered a season-ending Lisfranc injury in the preseason against New England, and we didn't get to see him play at all. The 2021 Heisman finalist tallied more than 8,200 yards to the air, 1,300 on the ground, and accounted for 75 total touchdowns in his 4 years in Oxford. In his last collegiate game, Corral suffered a right leg injury while taking a sack against Baylor in the Sugar Bowl. Corral remains an option for the Panthers moving forward, though with the new coaching staff and injury concerns, there are more questions than answers about his future. The New England Patriots selected Bailey Zappi in the 4th round. Zappi played at Houston Baptist for 3 seasons before he transferred to Western Kentucky, where he just dominated. He ended up setting FBS single-season records for yards and touchdowns while there. Zappi started his rookie season as the 3rd stringer behind Mac Jones and Brian Hoyer, but Mac ended up suffering an ankle injury in week 3, which set up Brian Hoyer to start the next game, but then he suffered a concussion in the first quarter. Zappi came in and ended up playing well in the loss. He made his first NFL start the following week and led the Patriots to a 29-0 victory over the Lions. Zappi passed for 188 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. He followed it up with 309 yards and 2 touchdowns in a Week 6 win over the Browns. Mac Jones returned in Week 7 and regained the starting role, but not without controversy. Mac struggled early and was benched for Zappi, who kind of also struggled. He passed for a touchdown on his first drive, but didn't end up scoring again and threw 2 picks. Zappi returned to the backup role, where he remained for the rest of the season. Zappi finished his rookie year with just shy of 800 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions while completing 70.7% of his passes. The Washington Commanders took North Carolina quarterback Sam Howell with the 144th overall pick in the 5th round. At UNC, Howell set all sorts of school records, including total passing yards, total passing touchdowns, and total touchdowns accounted for while starting every game for the Tar Heels over 3 years. Howell impressed in the preseason, completing nearly 2/3 of his passes for more than 500 yards and a touchdown in 3 games. After waiting behind the veteran duo of Carson Wentz and Taylor Heinicke, Howell finally made his debut in Week 18 at home against the Cowboys. The rookie threw for 169 yards and a touchdown and added 35 yards on the ground in a 26-6 win that ended Dallas's NFC East title hopes. Though it was only 1 game, Howell has certainly done enough to give himself a shot to compete for the starting quarterback job heading into year 2. The Steelers bookended their 2022 draft with quarterback picks, taking South Dakota State quarterback Chris Oladokun with the 241st pick in the 7th round. The Steelers took a second quarterback in part due to the tragic death of Dwayne Haskins. After 2 years at Southern Florida and 2 more at Samford, Oladokun found a home with the Jackrabbits. He started all 15 games in 2021 and fell 1 game short of the FCS national title game. The Tampa native threw for more than 3,100 yards and 25 touchdowns in his last collegiate season. Oladokun didn't play a down for Pittsburgh in the preseason and is currently on the Chiefs practice squad. The Miami Dolphins picked Skylar Thompson with the 247th pick after his 5-year career at Kansas State. Thompson was the first KSU quarterback with both 6,000 passing yards and 1,000 rushing yards in college. He made 8 appearances and 3 starts in his rookie year, stepping in after injuries to Tua Tagovailoa and Teddy Bridgewater. Thompson made his first start in a 24-16 loss to the Vikings in Week 8. He came up clutch in his second career start though, outdueling Joe Flacco's Jets in a thrilling 11-6 win in Week 18 to clinch a playoff berth. With Tua and Teddy both injured, Thompson started Miami's first playoff game since 2016 in Buffalo. The Dolphins hung tight but couldn't complete the upset. Thompson finished his rookie campaign with 2 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, but showed some flashes that might make him a quality backup quarterback moving forward. Last but certainly not least, the San Francisco 49ers selected Iowa State quarterback Brock Purdy 262nd overall, the last pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. With Jimmy G and 2021 first-round pick Trey Lance ahead of him, nobody really expected much from Mr. Irrelevant. But boy did Purdy have a surprise in store. After Lance injured his ankle in Week 2 and Jimmy G broke his foot in Week 12 against the Dolphins, it was time for Purdy to shine. All he did in his first meaningful action was light up the Dolphins for 200+ yards and 2 touchdowns in a 33-17 win. It was a sign of things to come, as Purdy went on to throw at least 2 touchdowns in every game for the rest of the regular season. His magical run finally came to an end in the NFC Championship versus the Eagles after he suffered a torn UCL and will be out for 6 months. His future is unclear, but much like the rest of his class, he exceeded expectations.